So it looks like more and more 30 frames per second games are coming to consoles. Let's look into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I would like to talk about console gaming and 30 frames per second games on consoles. Now this generation so far was actually pretty good when it comes to developers delivering 60 frames per second performance modes on console games, right? I mean, like I would say most of console games current gen games or cross-gen titles for current gen consoles do offer some form of performance modes, or they just run 60 frames per second. Now, of course, sometimes these performance modes would not be perfect, but still, you know, it's better than nothing, right? However, some games obviously run at 30 frames per second. I mean, Starfield is a good example. Gotham Knights is another one. There were a couple of games that were 30 at launch and then patched later, like Plague's Tale, for example, and I think there was like one or two other games too. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we shouldn't really complain that much, especially in comparison to like last generation, where most games were 30. Now, these days, most games are 60, or at least they offer these performance modes. But that doesn't change the fact that current-gen consoles, well, with some games, can deliver only 30 frames per second, especially when it comes to like stable frame rate, right? Because obviously there's some games that, well, developers say that, oh, we are focusing on delivering stable 30, and hey, there's a performance mode over there. If you want to try it, go ahead and do it, but you're probably not going to have a stable performance there, right? And a good example would be Final Fantasy games, for example, Final Fantasy 16, or the recent one, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, I think it's called. You know, there's other games like that too, so it's not only like these PlayStation games. So like generally speaking, there are some games, and now we are hearing that Dragon Dogma, even though they will offer, I mean, this game will offer some form of, I don't really want to call it performance mode, but unlock frame rate. And but you know, generally speaking, I'm still not 100% sure whether they will offer like two modes, like unlocked frame rate and stable 30. I really do hope that's going to be the case, because really, when it comes to these frame rates, I mean, like I don't necessarily, you know, I'm not saying that every single game has to be like you know, flat 60. Like some drops here and there doesn't really bother me that much, to be honest with you. Like couple of frames here and there, just for like a second or two, that's not a major issue. But when you check, you know, some of the latest information on Dragon's Dogma 2, for example, I mean, the game is just like unlocked 30 frames per second. I mean, it's not 30, it's anything between 60, 50 to 30 frames per second, right? So, you know, it's, yeah, that's not really a great experience, to be honest with you. And I don't really see a reason to play that mode. But, you know, I want to say something very important over here. Don't get me wrong, right? I mean, I'm not criticizing developers for including these unstable performance modes anyway, right? I say that do it, even if a game runs at 35 frames per second, that's fine. Go ahead and include that in your game, and I will tell you why. As long as you will also offer a stable 30 frames per second mode, right? You know, don't because there's been some games that would offer like only unlocked frame rate, and it would be all over the place. It's just not it's not a good experience. It's a juddery experience, right? But if you offer, unstable but still performance mode, and then stable 30 frames per second mode, that's totally fine. And I say this because there's two reasons why even unstable performance modes are actually a good thing. A, you can use VRR on Xbox and PlayStation. On PlayStation, that may be a little bit of an issue because, the actual out-of-the-box VRR range is limited. I think it's like, PlayStation out-of-the-box, like system-wide, can deal with a range of like between 48 and 60 frames per second, I think. While Xbox can go way more down, right? Like, to a lower frame rate to kind of, it will not eliminate judder like completely, but it's still a better experience. So VRR, right? So like if you play some of these games and you've got VRR, that will help a lot. But two, and I think that's more important reason is that, at some point in the future, these games, I would imagine that, console manufacturers, both Xbox and PlayStation in the future, will want to keep their consoles backwards compatible. So, for example, if you've got this game and you will want to play that game on PlayStation 5 Pro or PlayStation 6 or Xbox Next or whatever Xbox Next Gen Xbox is going to be called, then, having that unlocked frame rate kind of mode on these next-gen consoles, that will give you way better experience and, a lot of times probably even 60 frames per second. We did see that with, some Xbox One X or PlayStation 4 Pro games that would offer like 45, 50 frames per second in performance modes. Then if you run these games on Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, they are locked 60, right? So, it's these performance modes, despite them being not really stable, there's some good to it, if you know what I mean, right? Even if you're not really going to take a full advantage of it right now, you may in the future, right? So, generally speaking, I don't necessarily hate on these, performance modes that are not stable 60. It's just I don't really want developers to just deliver, one mode which is like unlocked frame rate and you deal with consequences, right? Meaning that, just get yourself a VRR ready TV or just get used to juddery frame rate, right? We don't really want that. But like I said, in the case of Dragon's Dogma 2, I really do hope that they will offer two modes. That still hasn't been confirmed because I think the only reports I've seen were like from IGN about the performance. Were from IGN, and they were saying that the actual frame rate is all over the place. It's anything between 31 frames per second and I guess 60, right? At some places, or close to 60, right? So that's not really great experience when it comes to performance. But like I said, I really do hope that they will lock the frame rate, not like completely. I still want that unlock frame rate toggle to be there, but on top of that, I just hope that developers will also deliver locked 30 frames per second option for this game on consoles, right? But listen, it is what it is. If you really want, better frames, just play on PC, and just like with Starfield, right? I actually played Starfield on PC. And it's great. Now it's even better because they improved performance. There's DLSS support and a couple of other things. So, any other like 30 on console kind of game, I'll probably go with PC too, right? So like I said, it's not all doom and gloom, don't get me wrong. That's not that. It's just, you know, I just hope that developers will have that in mind, developing these games and offering these unlocked frame rates and modes, right? I mean, for example, From Software games are notorious for like juddery performance and, you know, kind of unstable frame rates and that kind of stuff. So anyway, guys, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.